case, we have now the last presentation of the day from our very own, Nice very own Raido Kaju and Petteri Kivimäki, who are going to talk about...
Petteri Kivimäki.
Yes, exactly. And who are gonna... so I love that sound, though. I hope it was a sound effect. And they're gonna talk about X-Road 8 Spaceship, from Launchpad to data spaces. I would say just one thing before passing the floor to them, to give them a warm welcome, but also if anyone here is can use reactions, hands raised, and everything like that, I please encourage everybody to just wish happy birthday to Petteri, whose birthday is today, purely coincidentally when we are doing this event, but. Petteri, happy birthday. I had to do this. I'm sorry. The floor is yours.
Grazie mille, Federico. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Petteri Kivimäki, and I'm the CTO of Nice. I'm glad to see you all joining the X-Road Community Event 2025 today. Even though this is the last presentation of the day, I hope you'll stay with us a little bit longer. Next, you'll hear the latest news about X-Road 8 from me and my colleague Raido Kaju. The story of X-Road 8 originally started already in 2020 when we began exploring the concept of data spaces and following various data space initiatives. Initially, we viewed data spaces as a new and emerging data exchange concept that seemed interesting, and we wanted to understand how it might relate to X-Road. And then over the years, Nice has evolved from being a follower to becoming a contributor, as we have joined several data space initiatives as contributing member. Along the way, we realized that this is also the direction X-Road should take, and that's how the story of X-Road 8 began. But what is a data space? Here you can see one of the most widely adopted definitions of a data space. When you look at this definition, does it seem somewhat familiar to you? Don't you think it could also be used to describe X-Road? At least I think so. X-Road and the data space concept share many similarities, but they also have several key differences. For example, the data space concept covers all layers of interoperability: technical, semantic, organizational, and legal, while X-Road focuses primarily on the technical layer. Another fundamental difference is that X-Road is an open source software product based on its own specifications, which provide interoperability between X-Road user organizations, both within a single X-Road ecosystem and across multiple ecosystems via federation. In contrast, the data space concept is based on international standards and specifications that enable interoperability within and across data spaces, regardless of the underlying implementation technology, as long as the technology complies with the same standards and specifications. X-Road Spaceship will transform X-Road into a data space compatible technology. If X-Road 7 was an evolution from X-Road 6, X-Road 8 is a revolution from X-Road 7. In practice, this means keeping X-Road's current ecosystem model while making it compliant with data space specifications and interoperable with the Gaia-X trust framework. For X-Road member organizations, this means they will be able to use their existing X-Road security servers to exchange data with organizations participating in data space infrastructures that follow the same specifications. Instead of having to deploy multiple ecosystem-specific technical access points, it will be possible to utilize the existing security server instances. The changes are not limited to data space-related improvements. X-Road's current software architecture was originally designed for X-Road 6 over 10 years ago, which is why it needs to be updated to meet today's technical requirements. Therefore, we're going to keep the good and remove the bad and the ugly. As a result, X-Road 8 will feature a more modular and streamlined architecture designed for deployment in the cloud. Nevertheless, the existing deployment methods will continue to be supported, so don't worry, no one will be forced to migrate to the cloud. And of course, it goes without saying that the goal is to implement all changes in a backwards compatible manner so that the connections between information systems and security servers do not need to be modified when upgrading from X-Road 7 to X-Road 8. We have divided the implementation into two phases. So first, we will implement changes to X-Road's software architecture, and then we will add support for the database specifications. In this way, we first build a solid foundation, and then we extend it with new features. This approach helps us avoid introducing too many major changes in parallel and allows us to focus more effectively on the ongoing tasks. We are still working on the architectural changes right now, but the plan is to begin work on database protocol support within the next few months or so. Version of X-Road 8 will be released during the last quarter of next year. But in the meanwhile, today we are launching the first X-Road 8 beta version, which my colleague Raido will introduce to you shortly. But before that, let's address one last remaining question. What happens to X-Road 7? X-Road 7 will continue to be supported even after the first X-Road 8 production release has been published. Support for X-Road 7 will last at least 1 year after the release of X-Road 8, and probably even longer. The exact length of the X-Road 7 support period just hasn't been decided yet. However, what has been decided is that feature development for X-Road 7 will stop after version 7.8.0, which will be released in December this year, within a few months. After that, X-Road 7 will receive only maintenance releases, including minor bug fixes and security patches. In this way, we can focus all our efforts on X-Road 8 related development activities. And next, Raido will tell you more about today's most anticipated news, the X-Road 8 beta release.
Thank you, Petteri. So let me share the presentation with you all, and we can move on to talking about the X-Road 8 beta that was released earlier today, as my colleague Petteri already mentioned. I'm happy to be here today to give you an overview of what features are included in the beta, what are some of the things that we hope you will try out, and also to give you an information overview of what is not in the beta yet. So things that you shouldn't expect, and also things that you need to consider when trying the beta out. So as a general overview, what is included inside the beta is also what Petteri already mentioned as the first steps for the X-Road 8 development cycle and beta releases, and that is to modularize, to improve its functionality inside the cloud, to help streamline certain processes, and in general update the look and feel of it to refresh the usability of it. And one thing that is different from previous betas that we have had for X-Road 7 is that where X-Road 7 betas were already fairly feature complete, we added certain new features and we were looking for the community to help test them out. Then in the case of X-Road 8, there will be a lot of changes. In the first step, architectural changes, and in the future also data spaces related changes. And to that end, we are looking to release more betas than just a single one. And we would like to do it in a more agile way. So the beta releases will be less refined. They might have certain features that are either missing or are broken, but they will rather focus on certain features that we would like to test out. So on a general level, the beta will include already modularization. It will improve the Kubernetes or implement the Kubernetes containerization improvements. We have updates to the designer, the look and feel, and so forth. But let's take a quick look at what's actually changed on the technical side inside of beta number 1. And they are all related to the points of the previous slide. So we have done some additional splitting of modules into their own containers. One big issue with the current X-Road 7 containerization approach is that every single module for X-Road runs inside the same container. We use supervisor and we simply run essentially the native packages inside of a Docker container. This isn't really a great fit for containerization. It doesn't take advantage of what the containerized environments offer. It also doesn't take advantage of what orchestration like Kubernetes and so forth offer. It doesn't allow you to scale the different modules very well, but unfortunately, it has been how the X-Road 7 modules so far have worked. And one of the big concerns there has been that a lot of the configuration and settings and so forth have been file system based. So it has been somewhat difficult to share it between containers. And to that end, we're looking to improve things. Firstly, related to Kubernetes, we have now Helm charts that will help set up the X-Road environment for Kubernetes. For Sidecar, we didn't have any of that. We do have manuals that help you set up the Sidecar instance, but it doesn't really help with the setup process as far as scripts and so forth go. And as said, one of the big issues with containerization in X-Road 7 was the file-based limitations. To that end, we have moved the configuration to the database mostly already. Currently, there are no migration scripts yet. They are planned for the future, but for now, it is simply set up inside the database. There's also currently no user interface to change the configuration values, but that is also planned. So for the first beta, at least, changing the configuration values will require you to edit them inside the database. But all of the same values from the system parameters should be present there inside of the databases in their default forms, or then in case there are overrides, in their override form. We have also moved the software tokens to be database-based, and that's also because the old software token was located on the disk. So it meant that in case you have multiple instances in a cluster, for instance, then you would also need to figure out how to synchronize the file-based access to the certificates and how to synchronize them between the different nodes. And this would all be fairly problematic if you have containers and you want to scale them separately. So to that end, we have also moved the token, software token to the database. So it will simplify scaling designer, for instance, in the future. Then also the internal certificates used by the user interfaces, as well as any API interfaces, gRPC interfaces internally between modules. They require certificates to authenticate connections between them. And for those, we have now switched to using OpenBOW that will host the certificates and help the scripts and modules manage them. And as a final change related to containerization, we have also implemented database-based authentication and user management. So previously, the configuration of new users was always done on the operating system level using the PAM authentication module to get the operating system hosts users and passwords and get their group IDs. And recently also enabling LDAP support there. However, for containerized versions, this doesn't, of course, work too well. So we decided to implement database-based authentication. And initially, it will only be available for containers. In the future, we will also look at expanding that to the native packages of X-Road. And one important thing there as well is that currently the implementation supports only database-based authentication solutions. In the future, of course, we would like to add support for more. We would like to also support LDAP there. And in addition to that, we would like to support, for instance, OpenID and other methods of getting user account data as well. And then finally, related to beta 1, just to go over what you should expect in the beta and what you shouldn't expect in the beta itself. So as already mentioned, the biggest changes in beta 1 are architectural changes, mostly related to containerization. However, native deployments have also changed a bit related to the requirements of the containerized environment, moving certain modules to their own space. For instance, the backup and restore processes now work somewhat differently. And also, we don't have any migrations, as already said, or upgrade paths for the beta environment. So this means that you can't upgrade an Xroad 7 installation to Xroad 8. You can't also upgrade between different betas that we will release in the future. And at some point, of course, we do hope to release a beta version that will allow you to test the migrations from version 7 as well. However, with the current betas, please don't expect any migrations or upgrades. Please also don't expect any backwards compatibility between earlier beta releases or between Xroad 7 and Xroad 8. So when you're testing Xroad 8, we ask that you always try with a fresh environment and use that. There is also no support for clustering in the current beta to make the setup as simple as possible and also to minimize any potential issues that there might be related to clustering, as it's something that we haven't fully been able to test yet. The current beta will not support clustering. And finally, as Petteri already mentioned, currently the data spaces protocol specific changes are not yet in the beta. They will be in future betas, so we ask you to look forward to them. And one more thing related to the beta is that earlier today, the packages were released. Also, the release notes were made available. In there, you will find the link to the GitHub discussion where we welcome you to discuss your experiences with the first beta, any findings that you have, any issues that you have with setting things up. Also, inside the release notes are links to the documentations for the native packages. Initially for beta 1, we only have native packages for Ubuntu 24.04. And then for the Kubernetes versions. And as far as documentation goes, we unfortunately don't yet have the full version of the beta instructions for Kubernetes available. They will be up in a few days, and we will update the release notes to also mark the guide there. However, all of the packages and Helm charts are available already. So in case you want to start trying them out already, then please feel free to. And also as a sneak peek, here is a comparison of the old UI and the new UI. So the basic approach has been to do incremental changes. The bigger change has been reallocating the top tabs to the left side so that it's a bit more easier to navigate. You have the menus available more of the time. And then under the security server example here, you can also see that the sub-tabs now are available here. So basically, under your view, the main functionalities related to it should be under the sub-tabs here. And then for a higher level switch of context, you can go to the left-hand side there and switch the context or functionality there. With that, thank you very much. That's the overview of the first beta of Xroad 8, and hoping to hear a lot of feedback from all of you and happy testing. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Raido. That was great, very interesting, and I can confirm that it was great and very interesting because the chat is on fire. I mean, as you can hear from the sirens here around Brussels, it's actually the timing has been perfect. But I just wanted to say, yeah, so many questions in the chat. So I see also Jan has one hand raised. First of all, I would just say, as a little joke, it's always nice to hear that nobody will be forced to migrate, whether that's about data spaces or real life. And after this, I will actually just leave the floor to Petteri, who's been answering there to the FAQs already, like in the chat. So Petteri, anything you have picked on that you want to answer specifically?
Yeah, well, I can see one common theme when it comes to the question. So backwards compatibility regarding the communication between version 7 and version 8 security servers and then upgrade. So Raido explained some pretty, let's say, hard limitations when it comes to the first beta version. And yeah, it's just the first beta that has these limitations. So once we get the first production version out there, the plan is that it's fully backwards compatible with X-Road 7 on interface level, and also that migrating or upgrading from X-Road 7 security server is supported. So the aim is that basically the migration from X-Road 7 to X-Road 8 is something quite similar to what you have to do when you upgrade from X-Road version 7.6 to version 7.7. So basically, it shouldn't be much more complicated than that. So yeah, please keep that in mind when you try out the beta and read about the limitations. It's just about the first beta version that has these restrictions.
There's also an interesting question from Andri, for example, who says, Petter, if you want to take a look at the chat, I will leave that to you. While in the meantime, I saw that there was Jan that had a hand raised. Jan, if you can head to the chat and ask your question there, that would be great, because in the meantime, considering that we have to close the event. I mean, to be fair, I will just say for a second the fact that it was like 7 minutes ago, when it was the official mark end of the event, we were about 140 people. So basically, the presence kind of like remained constant all throughout, which means thanks to everyone who has joined so far and who is also still here to ask some questions and being interested in understanding more about X-Road 8. Christina from the DPI map, in the meantime, had to leave. So if anybody wants to reach out to her, you can find her email address in the chat of this call. And also just her profile as one of the guests of today's event. Petteri, do you have something?
Yeah.
Answer to my question was here already. Okay, perfect. So Jan also has found his answer. And if you want to say something about Andri, then I would instead close with a more general level take, let's say, that puts together a few things that have been mentioned and one that Mike Gifford raised in the first place during the call.
Yeah, I can answer to Andri shortly. So right now, if you are planning to implement a new X-Road ecosystem within next 6 months, then X-Road 7 is your version of choice. It's the version to go. X-Road 8, like I mentioned, will be released during the last quarter of next year. So before the first production release is out, then please go with X-Road 8. And like I explained, X-Road 8 will be backwards compatible with X-Road 7. So even if you do your implementation with X-Road 7, then there is a clear upgrade path to X-Road 8, and you don't need to waste any work there. And also, there's no need to postpone your implementation because you want to wait for X-Road 8. So just start with X-Road 7, and once X-Road 8 is available, then you just upgrade to it.
Petteri, a general question which I saw already Britta actually react to, if we will be sharing like the recording of this meeting or in any case like a similar material, I don't know, like a recap, some notes. Is there something is going to be released after this, no? Based on the meeting.
During the last years, yes, we have published the recordings on YouTube after the event, and probably we will do the same thing this year. So as you have noticed, this meeting has been recorded. So probably everything will be available on YouTube afterwards.
Hopefully not exactly everything, so we can just cut in post-editing that little
Yeah, of course.
Teams failure moment. But I will close actually. I think we've gone through a nice trajectory today in the sense that we didn't just talk about the technical sides, let's say, of X-Road, but also the reasons for interest, you know, like why we're talking about it, why there is this community event overall happening. I have to say, as as the host of today's session, I really liked to just having to open the chat all the time to see like what people were saying and what was the contribution, what were the questions. So once again, I will just say thanks to everyone for joining this event today and also for wishing together with us happy birthday to Petteri. But before that, as a closing remark, I would do something that we kind of have started with because Jonathan and Vincent, if I'm not wrong, from Quebec, had mentioned, you know, a few times digital sovereignty, technological sovereignty, and the changing geopolitical, let's say, landscape. Obviously, we're not going to get into any kind of like foreign policy analysis here, but there was a question from Mike earlier that literally was saying, I am curious if political changes globally have accelerated the viability of type of solutions like X-Road. He also says that he heard about Taiwan's T-Roads implementation like earlier in the year, which actually I don't know about. But have we seen an increase in the rate of collaboration between governments at this point? And he was also noting that it is amazing to see Quebec join Nice because it's an amazing example of that happening. What is a little bit your perspective from the builders' side, let's say, on this point?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I mean, yeah, we can definitely see that there is a lot of interest towards X-Road globally. Before X-Road 8, there was more interest outside of Europe, but now after announcing X-Road 8, the interest in Europe has also been increasing by different governments and also on a state level. So overall, it's a very fascinating situation to X-Road, and there's a lot of potential. We might see a lot of new X-Road implementations within the next few years.
Amazing. I will close with saying